A lot of people want to know, Andrew, where can I get an easy second residence? And for a lot of folks, they would like for that to be in Europe. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 6 easy second residences that you can get in emerging Europe. I'm Andrew Henderson. A lot of folks want to live in Europe, but here's the secret about Europe. A lot of the countries in the European Union, particularly in Western Europe, have relatively high requirements. Now, there are some straightforward programs, such as the various golden visa programs, which, while not exactly cheap, offer a relatively decent value for someone who just wants to get a residence permit and, in some cases, citizenship in the future. But what I found is when you deal with emerging countries, you can have a little bit easier time and lower investment requirements to get your residence permit. Now, there are 2 types of emerging countries in my experience, and this is very true in Europe in general. You have some of the more emerging EU European countries that tend to, in many cases, have more stringent demands than some of their Western counterparts. So, for example, in Romania, not really any very good residence programs. I like Romania. We looked into Romania. We put a lot of time researching it, but there's just not a value in the program. If you want to be a resident, you got to live there a good chunk of the time. You've got to invest a bunch of money, hire a bunch of people, pay some tax. It's just not that appealing in the grand scheme of things. And so the Portugal Golden Visa program, for example, is far easier than that. It just happens to have a relatively high price tag. So the one kind of emerging country is almost, some people in the EU have told me where it's like we're trying to be more Catholic than the Pope. We're trying to live up to the EU standard of being somewhat tough on immigration. That we think that's what the EU wants. We don't want to let everybody just come in, so we're going to have an overpriced residence option. Other emerging countries make it relatively easy and they make the prices relatively low to get in. So that's what we're going to talk about today. 5 different options. And the first one is in the line of a golden visa. It is the Latvia residence program. Now, Latvia used to have a program not too many years ago where there were practically no fees at all. It was a great offer. And then they wised up and started adding some various government fees. It's still not a bad deal, though. You can invest €250,000 in property anywhere in Latvia, or you can deposit €280,000 in a type of bank deposit. And what that gets you is a 5-year residence permit. You don't need to be there. Now, if you're not there, you're not going to become a citizen, but you can simply come and go as you want for 5 years, and after that, you can renew it. You're going to pay somewhere in the order of about 12,000 up to 25,000 euros in government fees, and there are some restrictions. For example, if you want to buy in the capital city of Riga, which is something in a country like that I generally recommend, you're going to be limited to 1 property. And so that's not exactly a cheap property for a city like Riga. You're going to be buying something that's relatively nice, relatively big. It might not be that liquid, but maybe you like the idea of living in Northern Europe in the summer. That could work, and then that's your access to not only Latvia, but to the entire Schengen area of the European Union and the EEA. So not a bad option. And so when people say, what is easy? You might be saying to yourself, oh, well, Andrew, of course it's easy. It's kind of expensive. Sure. The more you pay, the easier things tend to get. That's really how it works. What are some other options? One that we don't talk about so much here is Armenia. Now, you can certainly debate whether Armenia and Georgia and Azerbaijan are in Europe, as Georgians and Armenians would claim, or whether it's Asia, which is more of the geographical issue. But Armenia certainly has a somewhat European feel to it, even if the culture's a little bit different than what you'd expect in, say, Portugal. What Armenia has is several different ways to qualify. Like many countries, there is a business immigration option. You start a business, you hire someone. They're somewhat strict on that. Okay? They want to make sure you're actually going to run a business. It doesn't have to be huge, doesn't have to be your entire business, but it should be something that actually works. You can't just set up a company and walk away and get a residence permit. There are other options where you can invest. We've put together a program where you can invest in kind of a real estate arbitrage. long-term rental, you have a go at a short-term rental, you make a few bucks and you get a residence permit. There are other options where you can invest in bonds, okay? So lots of different investment options. You don't really have to spend a lot of money. You could spend as little as $20,000 in investment capital, and the fees are pretty reasonable. Number 3 is Montenegro. I like Montenegro a lot. And what's interesting about a lot of the non-EU Balkans countries, Serbia, Montenegro, etc., is most of them, not all of them, but most of them have a pretty similar program. It's interesting when you look at certain pockets of the world, they often have very similar laws in neighboring countries, and that's the case here, where in Montenegro, you can buy a property, any property. It technically needs to be 12 meters in size. There's no real limit, and they're not really going to go and check that you're living in the property. You just need to buy the property. Now, they have recently cracked down a lot due to certain nationalities coming in and abusing this. They would buy one apartment and 18 people would live there. They're not doing that anymore. It's basically going to be you, whose name is on the title, and your spouse and kids if you have them. That's about it. Okay, so there's no more bringing 16 different people with you. That has gone. They're also they want to make sure that you're there a little bit of the year. What it seems like is they give you the benefit of the doubt for a while, and then they eventually come and crack down on you if you're not living there at least part of the year. Montenegro, a pretty tax-friendly country, not a bad place to live, but as with so many residence programs, it is becoming tougher. Things that didn't used to be checked are now checked. And the one downside to Montenegro is that through real estate, there's really not a path to citizenship. Even if there was, it would take a long time. But with the real estate option, you're not going to have a great path for citizenship. Number 4, next door, is Albania. Very similar program. Definitely a different kind of vibe. Albania seems to be very US friendly if you're from the United States. And so you can go to Tirana, you can go to Saranda on the coast, Vlora, and there's opportunities there. One of the cheapest places to buy real estate in Europe, and perhaps the cheapest place almost anywhere to buy coastal real estate. I mean, we're talking 500 euros for a meter right on the seaside promenade in some places. So definitely an option there, but they are also going to check you. Unless you're a US citizen, you get some special advantages. So they're looking for you to be there. Number 5, Serbia, same kind of deal, buy a property. In this case, they're going to go and make sure that you're there. Okay, they want to knock on the door. And so while we made a video on really cheap properties in Serbia, they are going to come and see, are you living in that property? So buying a 6,000 euro property in a village that needs some repair, hope you're planning on hanging out there for a while until they get around to making sure that you're there as part of your application. But if you want to buy a place, and again, Serbia, I think, is a very friendly place. The Montenegro-Serbia corridor, certainly a very fun one, and relatively reasonable tax rates. It's definitely an option to consider. And the last option, number 6, in emerging Europe is Georgia. Obviously, we've talked about Georgia a lot for banking. Georgia has recently increased the requirement. What was once $35,000 in real estate is now $100,000 in real estate to get a temporary residence permit. If you want permanent, you're going to have to do more than that. And so Georgia is responding to being a country that was relatively easy for a while. They were pretty liberal, and it was taken advantage of. And so $100,000 in real estate, not much to do. The taxes are a joke on real estate. I mean, it's a very straightforward place to do business. But the requirements are simply going up. The requirements on getting citizenship have gone up. And so this is part of a greater trend. Okay, if you're sitting and you're saying, I want a second residence, and potentially to turn that into a second passport, all these different opportunities are becoming more and more difficult. And it's not only because countries, some of them want to join the European Union, or they're trying to go in that direction, and so the European Union tries to get them to not make things so easy. In other cases, they feel that their programs are being abused. And so if you're a Westerner, what you probably don't see is you probably don't see the people from non-Western countries who are really on the hunt for programs where they can just go anywhere. These people from countries who want to go anywhere, there's a whole industry. I mean, if you think our channel is big, go and find channels in Hindi, or go and find the 100,000 Chinese immigration agents who are helping people move. Those people are looking for programs that are easy, and once they become abused, the governments respond and they come out with higher and higher prices. Easy residences are harder to find. Europe is somewhat ground zero for that for a number of reasons. So if you want to get an easy second residence, my suggestion is always to do it now, always to figure out which one's the best for you, how does that play into your global picture, and to get moving because prices almost always go up. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6 or 7-figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.